Some people think Guts is strong because he swings a sword bigger than most humans. That's not why he's strong. Guts is strong because every single reason to quit showed up in his life first. Before the armor, before the plot, before the power, before the legend. Quitting had every chance to win. And somehow it didn't. Stick with me for a few minutes. Because this isn't really a story about an anime character. It's a story about you. On your worst day, deciding whether to get up anyway. Here's what nobody tells you about Cats. He never becomes healed. He never gets a peaceful ending where the pain disappears and everything makes sense. He just keeps walking, bleeding, fighting, surviving. And somehow that's the most comforting thing about him. Because real life doesn't hand out clean healing either. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why that's actually good news for you. Gats didn't choose his first battle. He was born from a hanged corpse, raised by mercenaries who saw him as a tool and handed a sword before he even understood what fear was. No childhood, no safety, no one was asking if he was okay. Sit with that for a second. Some of you didn't choose your pain either. You didn't ask for the house that felt like a fortune. You didn't ask for comparison, the pressure, the version of not good enough that got planted in you before you even had language for it. Imagine growing in a household where your existence is questioned every time. If you score less marks, they will say like, "Why did I give birth to you? You are such a burden. I should have left you in the village. I should have abandoned you. I shouldn't have given birth to you." Their pain, their frustration, they take out all their suffering on you. You didn't choose that life. Whenever they ask something, you give your honest opinion, and they think that you are arguing with them. So you shut your mouth, but then they say you're showing you them attitude. You're not giving them answer. So just hard. So kids who grow up without emotional safety don't become fragile by default. Some of them become hyper competent survivors. They learn to function through pain because pain becomes the baseline, not the exception. That's the story of cats at 9 years old, already killing to survive. That's some of you, already carrying weight most adults never had to carry. You have never been to amusement park. You never get your pocket money or anything like that. You just study, work, or maybe anything. That is to prove them that you're something. You're a human being. Or the so-called responsibility for the family. And here's what most people miss. This isn't a trauma makes you strong story. Trauma doesn't build strength. What you do with it does. Then Kurtz finds the band of the hug and Griffith. For the first time someone sees him. Griffith looks at Kurtz and doesn't see a weapon. He sees someone work keeping clues. And Kurtz, this walking storm of a person, finally exhales. This is the part people underestimate. Kurtz didn't just want power. He wanted to belong to something. He wanted a cause of my own, in his words, or reason bigger than survival. That's not weakness, that's a human, because a human needs something to rely on. Maslow talks about this decades ago. Before you can even think about purpose, you need safety and belonging. Kurt skipped belonging his whole childhood. So when he finally tastes it, he holds on with everything he has. Ever noticed how the people who grow up starving for connection are often the ones who love the hardest and get hurt the hardest too? That's not a coincidence. That's the psychology of unmet needs, unrequired needs. What you didn't get early, you chase intensely later. Imagine or think about it, that cliched plot armor. You watch the shows or dramas in which you call simp because that guy didn't get a ounce of love from his family. So when anybody offers him a bit of shade of kindness, he wanted to give it his all money, his all love to that person. That's why everyone thinks he's begging for them. If they hurt again and again, he has no one to rely on, so he will not lift him. That's because he lacked the power of, he lacked love, that kindness. Nobody has showed him. And then everything he built gets taken from him in one night. The people he trusted, the place he belonged, his arm, his eyes, the woman he loved, broken in front of him, betrayed by the one person who made him feel human. This is a part of the story people can't even watch twice. Because it's not really about demons and sacrifice. It's about the universal fear underneath all of it. What if the person I trust the most are the ones who end up destroying me? And it's often seen that the person closest to you or the person you trust the most in this world is the one who betrays you so badly. He destroys you completely. And you can't even imagine that this guy did that to you. That fear lives in a lot of you. Maybe not through a literal betrayal, but through a friend who disappeared, a parent who let you down, a version of love that turned out to be conditional. Like you have seen that gold digger type story, money digger, that he or she stays with you for the money. And here is the part that matters. God doesn't get to move on from the eclipse. He carries it literally in the Berserk armor, a suit that gives him monster power at the cost of his own body and sanity. That's such an accurate metaphor for something real. Something the strength you build after pain still cost you something. People love to say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But they skip the part where the strength you gain from trauma often comes with a price you keep paying quietly. So here is the real question the whole story is really asking. If healing doesn't come, if closure never arrives, if the people who hurt you are never punished the way they deserve, do you still keep going? God's answer is yes. Not because he is inspired, not because he found peace, but because he decided. Somewhere in that vein, that revenge and despair weren't going to be the whole story. This is where Buddhism actually says something surprisingly similar. It doesn't promise the end of suffering, it teaches that suffering is a part of existence, and the goal isn't to escape it, but to stop adding more suffering on top of it through resistance, hatred, and attachment. God spends years drowning in hatred for Griffith, and it doesn't heal him, it poisons him, it harms him, it affects him. It's only when he starts protecting people again, Casca, fairness, the family he finally found, that something in him starts to soften. His perception starts to shift, not disappear, soften. That's the lesson. Purpose doesn't erase pain. It just gives pain somewhere to go. And it finally shifts to something from one thing to another. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The only thing in your control is your brain, your mind. Cats can't control what happened to him. Nobody can control what already happened to them either. Not the childhood, not the betrayal, not the people who lived. But there is one thing cats always control whether he picks the sword back up tomorrow. That's it, that's the whole philosophy. Not heal fully, not forgive everyone, not find peace. Just pick the sword back up tomorrow. For you, the sword might be your notebook, your job application, your gym bag, your body, your unfinished projects sitting open on your laptop, judging you quietly. Same principle, different sword. A lot of you watching this aren't dealing with demons and armors. They're dealing with the people. You're dealing with something quieter. Waking up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. Opening 5 tabs of how to stay motivated, watching hundreds of thousands of videos, and closing all 5 without reading any of them. You're dealing with a version of pain that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No one throws a candlelight vigil for burnout. No one writes a sad anime soundtrack for the fact that you have been putting off that one conversation, that one deadline, that one version of yourself you keep almost becoming. But here is the strange comfort in Kurt's story. He never waited to feel ready. He never waited for the pain to make sense. He just kept moving, exhausted, angry, imperfect. Like you can call it he has a system. He was consistent, he was disciplined. And that imperfect motion is what eventually built the man who could stand against monsters. You don't need to feel unstoppable to become someone who doesn't stop. And here's the part that changes everything about how you see this story. Guts was never the black swordsman because he was fearless. He became that because he kept working while afraid, while grieving, while furious, while broken. Courage was never the absence of pain in this story. It was movement, in spite of it. And maybe that's the whole point of telling this story to you right now. Not to romanticize suffering, but to remind you that the version of you who feels behind tired and not enough is still allowed to pick the sword and back up tomorrow. So, no matter how you are, in which state you are, you just need to show up every day because you will never be fully motivated. You will be never be able to overcome that hurdle that you are good enough. You're that the best man in the world. Cats never got a clean ending to his pain. Maybe you won't either. But maybe that was never the point. Maybe the point was never healing perfectly. Maybe the point was just one more step. The first step, the first thing. One more step, one more day, one more task, one more pitch, one more sit. If cats can carry a sword heavier than most men can lift, with a body that's falling apart and still show up for the people he loves, you can carry whatever you're carrying today too. So what's the sword you have been putting down? Tell me in the comments. I actually read them. Maybe that's what it will be, your skill, your body, your athletic body, your mind, maybe your marks, maybe your scores. Please like and subscribe my videos. If you want more of this, share this with someone who's currently fighting with someone. You may be fighting with your own version. Maybe you have your own suffering, your pain, maybe from your family, because you think they don't understand your views, your codes. So you just need to move on. Just take your own steps and don't care about others, because your perception will shift or their perception will shift. So just carry on.